Next in line.
Doc waits his turn patiently, stepping forward to take the vacant spot left by the man in front of him, as each prisoner behind does the same.
This is humiliating. They can't just keep us chained like cattle.
The man behind whines.
Seems to me being humiliated ain't your biggest problem at the moment, bud.
Doc is referring to the line they are currently standing in, the line which ends with each participant adorning their neck with a noose.
Next in line.
The hangman shouts. 6 little sheep are now all that stands between Doc and his final destination.
Aren't you scared?
The man in front asks.
Me? No.
Doc answers truthfully.
I've been worse off than this.
Well, excuse my cynicism, but I find that rather difficult to believe. We're less than 5 minutes away from having our necks snapped, you fool.
The man behind complains again. Doc turns to face him as much as the chains will allow, brandishing a rugged scar across his throat.
Like I said, bud, I've seen worse than this.
They all turn to focus on the sound of rope snapping into a taut position, followed by flailing and kicking, and finally silence.
Next in line.
5 remain.
What's your name anyway?
Not that it matters. I won't remember it long.
You're right. You are rather cynical. People call me Doc. That's just a nickname, but my real name doesn't matter much now, does it? You?
Since you seem so hell-bent on calling me Bud, I suppose that's how you can refer to me. Seeing as we ain't using real names.
Bud replies.
Good deal, Bud. What about you up there?
Doc gently yanks on the chain attached to his wrists.
Clem. That's my real name, I guess. I ain't got much to hide from you fellers now.
Clem shrugs.
No, Clem, I suppose you don't. Since you don't have anything to hide, what did you do to end up here?
Doc grins at him.
Heh, no use in lying now. I accidentally killed a man in a bar brawl, but I was so liquored up I didn't even know what had happened until I woke up in jail. That's the price to pay for the rowdy life I've led, I guess.
Clem stares down at the floor, deep in reflection.
A wild man,
Doc chuckles.
What about you?
Bud interrupts.
You love asking about everyone's every detail, but you don't seem to like to share. Why are you here?
Contempt.
Contempt of court? You're sentenced to hang by the neck until death for contempt of court.
Bud prosecutes with an eyebrow raised.
Now that's funny.
Clem cackles.
Yes, contempt of court. What other kind is there? The problem is they thought I was a witch. That was the trial, to determine whether I was a witch or not.
Clem and Bud fidget nervously, staring intently at Doc.
Well,
Clem suggests.
Well, what?
Doc responds defensively.
Next in line.
4 poor souls stand between Doc and the noose. They all take 1 step forward.
Are you a witch or not?
Bud blurts out, unable to refrain any longer.
What a bizarre question that is,
Doc retorts.
I think it's a fair question. Tell us, are you or ain't you?
Clem cuts in.
Not necessarily, no.
What's that supposed to mean, not necessarily? You either are or you aren't something, just like Clem said.
Bud exclaims.
Wait a minute. I thought witches could only be women.
Clem ponders.
Of course not. There are male witches. They're just called... well, they have a different name, but they do exist.
Bud shouts.
Oh? Have you ever seen a witch yourself?
Doc turns to look at Bud behind him.
Well, no. Not with my own eyes or anything, but I know they're real.
Bud replies, exasperated.
Abysmal people, witches. Just awful company, really, says Doc.
Ah, so you are a witch. You just admitted it.
Clem jumps excitedly in his chains.
I did not say anything even remotely close to me being a witch, because I'm not one.
Doc responds facetiously.
You did so. I was standing right behind you. I heard it.
Bud squeals.
No. All I said was witches are terrible people to be around. Not that I am one. Christ, imagine that. Me being a witch. I would have volunteered myself to be first in the gallows today. Next in line.
3 more.
Witch or not, sounds like you're going to get your wish sooner than later,
Bud mutters. They are now standing right alongside the wooden beams holding up the fateful platform, staring through an opening between 2 posts. The trapdoor drops out with a thunderous clap, immediately followed by a large man plunging through it. A loud snap echoes out from the catacomb of wood planks, and neither Clem or Doc nor Bud behind them is certain whether the sound came from the taut rope or his neck bones shattering. The swaying body slowly rotates to face them, face bluish-purple and bulging eyes dark red from ruptured blood vessels. Clem begins to tremble at the sight, reluctantly turning to stare at Doc.
Still ain't scared, huh? I would have an easier time believing you're a witch.
He faces forward once more as the chains around his wrist and waist clatter.
I've made my peace, boy. Perhaps it's time you make yours. Death has been chasing me all my life, but every day is a good day when you cheat it,
Doc states solemnly. 2 low-ranked-looking men sluggishly meander under the platform and cut the hanging man down. He drops with a meaty clunk.
That didn't sound like dirt,
Bud whispers.
It wasn't,
Doc replies. It wasn't dirt at all that the large man landed on, but a mass grave dug under the gallows to get through the day quicker.
For mass executions like this, they drop the bodies into a gigantic hole and burn them afterwards,
he continues.
I'm gonna be sick.
Bud quivers behind.
Maybe think twice on that one. You don't want to be swinging up there covered in your own filth, do you? Trust me. It's already bad enough to stand on the trap door and hope your neck breaks instantly rather than choke to death. They aren't holding a royal service for each of the dearly departed. Why else do you think they do this in the dark? Next in line.
Only 2. Clem, Doc, and Bud watch the next victim march up the stairs with the morbidity of a funerary dirge, walking so slowly to the noose, his chains don't even rattle. The hangman grows impatient and walks up behind the man to roundhouse kick him in the small of his back.
I don't think I can go through with this. I can't do it.
Clem weeps at the base of the stairs.
What other choice you got, son?
Doc questions.
We'll be right behind you. Any last words?
The hangman asks, with his hand resting on the lever. The man stares up at the sky full of stars, taking a long and deep breath full of dread and disbelief.
Lord, play! Too slow.
The hangman yanks the lever to release the door. The man reaches the bottom of the rope in a hurry with the signature snap, fingers twitching by his side.
You boys hear that? That was definitely a broken neck that time. There, you see his hand? Lucky bastard,
Doc exclaims. Clem turns to stare in shock with tears forming in the corners of his eyes, shaking his head at Doc.
We could only be so fortunate, eh?
Doc jokes.
Lighten up. Seize the moment.
What moment? We're out of moments, if you couldn't tell.
Bud panics.
Next in line.
1. Clem.
Well, fellers, it was fun while it lasted. Truly a pleasure getting to know you both.
Clem salutes them and begins the somnambulist march through dreary moonlight to meet his maker, numb to the pains of reality.
Now would be the time if you had a hidden plan, Doc,
Bud shouts.
Never had one. Sometimes you have to let fate play out. Any last words out of you?
The hangman asks. Clem turns his back toward him and brandishes 2 middle fingers. Doc beams as Clem vanishes beneath the floorboards.
Attaboy. Next in line. Well, I guess that's me.
How can you be so calm at a time like this?
Bud asks.
Easy. I've been here before,
Doc replies.
You've got hung before? What? When? How many times?
This will be my 9th. Take it easy, partner.
Doc winks at Bud and follows the path taken by Clem a moment ago. When asked for his last words, Doc only flashes a sinister smile and vanishes beneath the surface. Bud is now sweating bullets, eyes darting around for any opportunity to escape. Although wouldn't at least one person have tried if they could? He ultimately decides to go the way of Doc and accept this moment as the latest chapter of his life, even if it is the last chapter.
Nick, what are you doing up here?
The hangman's assistant asks.
My neck was already unchained because I'm next. This is my turn. I'm ready.
Bud stares firmly at the black executioner's mask.
Very well,
The assistant remarks.
follow me.
Bud walks over and bows his head, allowing the noose to be easily affixed on his neck.
Any last words?
The executioner's voice booms after being shown up by Bud.
I'll see you soon.
Bud stares ahead with stone-like demeanor. The shock of the wooden door disappearing underneath his feet causes Bud to close his eyes and wince in fearful anticipation behind the hardened facade. This is it. Cold death crossing over, he thinks. What feels like a minute of time passed is in reality merely seconds, as Bud realizes he is standing on the neatly stacked pile of bodies, obviously intentional.
Hurry up and get down. They'll be coming now.
Doc warns, untying Bud's noose and hand restraints.
But you... Yes, of course. But we need to move quickly now.
Bud and Doc run past Clem's body, which Doc placed to the side of the grave to lay by himself, resting peacefully on the dirt.
You weren't able to save Clem?
Bud asks in desperation. Doc shoots him a sharp look before they both stare at Clem's neck, which is bent nearly 90 degrees to the side.
Aside from the obviously broken neck, how could I save him from falling before me?
Bud shrugs. The two assistants arrive to cut down the supposed corpse, but instead find both criminals standing next to a body.
Unless you've been hiding a shotgun down the back of your shirt, it may be wise to run,
Doc says. Bud predictably panics and flees down the dimly lit corridor with both goons giving chase.
I hope this has all been a part of your plan.
Bud gasps as he runs.
They're gonna be looking for us in every direction.
If you prefer, we could go back and I could hang you again.
Bud turns his head to answer sarcastically, but trips over a carcass on the ground, kicking the side of the head and breaking its neck.
Looks just like Clem now.
Doc stands next to Bud, waiting for him to arise.
Are you gonna help me? They're nearly on top of us now.
No more running, Bud.
Doc stands to face the oncoming assailants, quickly grabbing the first one to arrive, swinging him up into the air and slamming the body's full weight down on the back of his head, smashing it into a textured jelly. The second stops just short in shock, although Doc does not allow him much time to contemplate. Bud watches in horror as Doc gnashes his teeth through the guard's throat, ripping it out in one piece and eviscerating the sinews with primal fervor.
You are a witch!
Bud shrieks. Doc turns his blood-soaked face back towards Bud, eyes dilated and predatorial. Bud recoils backward in fear.
Not exactly,
Doc replies, offering his hand to help Bud stand.
But not incredibly far off.
I suppose that explains getting hung 9 times,
Bud says while standing up and dusting himself off.
What about Clem? Can you help him? I can, if your definition of help is loose enough. There's always a rather lengthy adjustment period involved when dealing with reanimation. He also didn't go down in the best of circumstances. I imagine there'll be hell to pay for someone.
I say we do it. We're going to need all the help we can get to get out of this crypt alive. Wait. Are you alive? You're some type of demon.
Something like that,
Doc mutters.
Okay, let's give it a shot. Stand back there.
Bud takes several steps back, simultaneously terrified and immensely intrigued. Doc begins to recite incantations which Bud can only vaguely make out. He hears the phrases,
Infernum, Effugiam, Memento moreset non hodie.
Amidst a bone-chilling atmosphere, Doc finalizes the ritual by sinking his teeth deep into Clem's neck, which shoots him upright after only a few seconds.
Let's take care of that neck problem you got there.
Doc violently yanks Clem's head the opposite direction to the sound of echoing crepitation.
What's wrong with his eyes? Why is he like that?
Bud points to the shimmering black spheres in Clem's head.
It's part of the process, like I said,
Doc answers.
Clem, are you with me, pal? It's Doc.
Clem stares into Doc's eyes, which are still a slight shade of red from the adrenaline rush of double murder a moment before, and nods slowly.
Good to hear. Clem, listen to me closely, okay? The one who did this to you is up there, on the deck above us. He's wearing a black hood. Make him suffer, Clem. Make him regret putting each and every one of these bodies down here. Go now.
Doc pats Clem on the shoulder, turns him around, and gives him a subtle nudge. Clem sprints back the way they came, back toward the damned gallows like a man possessed by vitriolic vengeance.
Shall we follow?
Doc gestures to Bud.
Well, I don't believe we should miss that, now should we?
Bud responds. The two of them pursue Clem at a moderate distance in order to watch the hangman pay his retribution. They crawl out from under the wooden stairs just in time to hear a ferocious growl raise into a full roar. Clem stands on the platform, a foreboding presence in the radiant moonlight.
What's this? Another volunteer?
The hangman asks.
We already got that one just a few people ago. Don't you remember?
One of the assistants fires back.
They all look the same to me. Walking dead men. So be it. Grab 'em.
The assistant charges. Clem steps towards him, the wood trembling beneath each stride. The assistant lunges forward to attack, while Bud and Doc watch vicariously from the staircase as Clem sidesteps the strike, catches his neck in the motion, and violently jerks it around. Clem's assailant falls flat on his front, face staring straight up at the sky.
Ha! Broken neck for a broken neck, eh, Clem?
Doc guffaws.
This is disgusting, and I love it,
Bud adds. The two heads watch while only barely sticking up over the main floorboard, their bodies hiding below on the stairs.
It's going to be like that, eh?
The hangman seizes a double-sided axe kneeling against a large wooden beam and runs straight for Clem.
Pay attention, Clem!
Doc shouts in warning. He turns to look at the hangman as the massive axe is swung through the side and halfway through the torso. A pained, animalistic screech fills the thin night air before Clem falls to the wooden deck. The remaining workers cheer for the executioner.
We're dead, Doc. They got him. They killed Clem, and now they'll be coming after us.
Bud worries again.
Relax, boy. He's simply learning what he's capable of now.
Clem yanks the axe from beneath his ribcage with another grunt, absolutely terrifying the hangman. They all stare in disbelief while Doc watches with pride as the gruesome axe wound fuses from the inside, moving outward. He stands up to bring the weapon back and swing down through the hangman's black executioner hat, cutting him entirely in half and chopping into the wood below. The hangman's two sides lean against each other and remain standing for several seconds, then peel away and crash on the ground. Each remaining employee on the platform scatters in random directions as chaos and bedlam overtake them. Clem explodes towards the closest man with inhuman speed and brandishes his long, dagger-like teeth.
This is great,
Bud proclaims as Clem bites a large chunk from the head like an apple.
Good old frontier justice,
Doc beams. Clem continues slashing through every man in sight, ripping the next one's arm off and beating him to death with it, then tearing someone's chest open and eating his heart whole. The scene grows too savage for Bud to watch any longer, so he covers his eyes with his hands to avoid any further horror or nausea, while continuing to cheer with glee.
All right, Clem, you did a great job. Come on back and we can escape before word spreads of what happened here.
Without question, Doc is something of an expert on this process. He has escaped 8 previous times the exact same way, and not once was he ever caught in the act. Clem turns to gaze at Doc with a wave of euphoria rushing his face. His eyes remain engulfed in blackness, yet a twisted smile forms to reveal his pointed, freshly red and dripping teeth behind curled lips.
Clem, come back to us. We are your friends, Clem. We can get you out of here.
What does that mean? What is he doing?
Bud asks, paranoid.
I'm sure it's nothing.
Doc reassures him.
Clem, let's go.
Clem breathes deeply, visibly expanding his ribs each time he inhales, pure pleasure manipulating his expressions. He turns towards Doc, but catches sight of the prisoners chained to one another still waiting for their turn to die.
Why is he looking over there?
Bud questions.
Not for any good reason, surely. Clem, we need to go now.
Clem races for the edge of the platform, takes a massive step onto the side railing, and leaps into the spectral night air. Shocked whispers and gasps travel through the ranks of prisoners as Clem hits the ground and rushes toward the front of the pack, taking down the first person in line and shredding apart his neck. Panic tears through the line like wildfire, with the inmates running in opposite directions and yanking each other to the ground. Clem continues to slash through them, one by one.
Well, that was unexpected,
Doc remarks, stroking his chin.
Is it though? There was no part of Clem that seemed out of control since we brought him back. We have to stop him. They're all gonna die.
I suppose.
Doc taps his cheek with his index finger.
Although they were all going to die anyway. This is essentially just a different method with the same outcome.
Bud stares at Doc with his eyes wide.
And? What do we do when he has nobody else to kill? We're gonna be standing here looking like a fresh meal, won't we?
Yes, I suppose.
While you continue to contemplate, we are growing dreadfully low on time. Look at him down there.
Bud points to the rapidly increasing number of bodies piling up in various states of dismemberment.
It is rather funny, though, the way they're all pulling each other down to get away. The human condition in a nutshell.
Doc smiles at Bud, who responds with an expression of disapproval. Clem finishes off the last of the standing prisoners, who are unable to run due to being chained to dead weight on the ground. A handful of crawlers lay scattered amongst the ruin, screaming out in agony, although Clem pays them no mind as he predictably turns toward the only 2 able bodies in sight.
Your thinking time appears to be over, Doc.
Not to worry, Bud.
Doc grabs a spare noose from the table where the executioner stood and kicks out one of the table legs.
Grab that.
You want me to kill him?
Bud panics.
You want to wrestle him down? Stand over here. You'll have to act as bait.
Wait.
Yes, you have to be the bait. I'm not technically alive, so this is really all for your benefit anyway.
Doc says abruptly.
Stand right here. We only have seconds left.
Bud clutches his wooden stake with quivering hands while Doc kneels behind the overturned table. Clem leaps up the stairs and charges for Bud, blinded by bloodlust. Doc catches Clem as he lunges, slipping the noose over his neck and landing on top of him. Doc manages to stand first, stomping his foot into the center of Clem's back and pulling the noose back hard until he hears the spinal cord snap.
That's your cue, Bud.
Bud, who had been staring in bewilderment, jumps to attention and drives the stake through Clem's back, followed by an anguished scream escaping his mouth. Doc lets go of the noose and jumps up to land both feet on the wooden stake, sending it completely through Clem's ribcage and into the platform below.
Good work,
Doc commends him.
But we killed Clem.
Clem was dead already. We brought him back, and unfortunately it didn't work out.
Pyrrhic victory,
Bud whispers.
Essentially. Although the cost of us walking away is worth all of this and more. At least to me. Don't ever apologize for winning, Bud. You were supposed to be one of these people, and now you're not. Particular feat I myself have been pulling off for quite some time now. Nothing here was your fault, except being a death row inmate.
Doc winks at him, then turns to walk away.
Doc, wait.
Bud calls to him. Doc turns to look.
What's your real name? I figure we're a bit past having secrets, right?
Heh, right. My name is Samuel.
Nice to meet you, Sam. I'm Michael.
Yeah,
Doc chuckles.
I already knew. Just wanted to meet you myself.
Doc turns to walk away once more.
We'll cross paths again soon.